So welcome to another new video. I thought what I'd do today was continue on with some of the ideas with the interval sequencing from last time, but I thought I'd do something cool in terms of actually getting you to practice this, but going between two different chord changes. Now, just before we continue with the video too, guys, quick word to say, I've got the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description below here on the video channel. And also please subscribe and like. You know, it really helps creators like myself, and if you want to support the channel, the Buy Me a Coffee way is a great way to do it if you don't want to sign up for other things, and support your local creators. All right, here we go, on with the video. Hope you guys dig it. Now, one of the things I was discussing with quite a few students this week, and we often play over frameworks of, you know, jazz standards, and jazz blues is a great kind of platform to practice a lot of improvisation ideas. So on a jazz blues, on bars 7 and 8, typically, there's a move from the 1 chord to the 6 chord, and that 6th chord is often a secondary dominant, quite often with a flat 9, because it's going to a minor 2 chord. So if we were playing a blues in, let's do it in the key of G for something different, so a G blues but jazz changes. Bars 7 to 8 would be this, G7 going to an E7 with a flat 9, for example, okay? Now, I'll put that on the screen as well, but that's just so you get an idea of what I'm talking about playing over. So I'm going to give you just a little kind of bit as a jazz harmony tip. So for a standard dominant chord, often jazz players will incorporate melodic minor vocabulary. Now, one of the most useful modes from the melodic minor for playing over dominant chords is the 4th mode. It's called the Lydian dominant mode. Now, you know, there's plenty of videos out there about the melodic minor scale. I'm going to do more myself, but it's the 4th mode of melodic minor. So if you're playing on a G dominant 7, you want to give it that sharpened 4th, that Lydian 4th sound. You're going to use the melodic minor scale of D, D, E, F, G, A, B, C sharp, D. That upward version works both ways. It's called the jazz melodic minor. So if you play that scale, that parent scale from G to G, you get the Lydian dominant. G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F, G. Now that gives us a G7 sound, but it implies this beautiful sound of a sharp 11. That sound, okay, which is kind of pretty neat. Now, so with that said, what we're going to do, remember I was talking to you about using like intervals of thirds, interval sequences, and you could invert them, you could go low to high, high to low, and so on. So you could play like that. This sounds really good when you're using the Lydian dominant. Kind of gives up the weird angular thing because your ear is expecting to hear, but we're playing that sharp 4. It's kind of like, oh, what's that? All right. So when we hear that sound over a G7, that's a beautiful sound, isn't it? Right. Just gonna move. All right. So here's G Lydian dominant played up here, starting on the 15th fret. Right. I'll say the note names too, and this is what you should do as well. G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F, G. What I always say to my students, play this in both directions. Go back down. G, F, E, D, C sharp, B, A, G. You can do that as slowly as you like, all right? And say the note name at the same time as playing it. Don't kind of go G, F. Make sure you know what you're playing as you play it, okay? We all use shapes and patterns on the bass. No one's saying that we don't. I mean, the bass, any stringed instrument, very visual, right? But if we know what we're playing, it's so much better, because that way when you see a G7 flat 9, you know that's an A flat on top of the chord, so it's kind of implying maybe half whole diminished. That kind of sound, right? It's that sound, right? So I see that, I recognize it, I know the sound, but I also know the notes where they are on the neck, right? This is really important. So getting back to that, so you're going to go G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F, G. Now we're going to do it in thirds, right? Now this is so much better. So we go, let's do it in that reverse thing where each pair of thirds, we start with the upper of the two notes. So in other words, I won't start on G, I'll start on B, a third up. B, down to G, right? C sharp, we've got the sharp 11, C sharp down to A, right? D down to B, okay? E down to C sharp, F, D, G, E, A, F, B, G. Keep going. That's that sharp 11. Sounds great, right? C sharp down to A, D, B. My bass has an E, which I love. Down to, so we go. Listen to how great that sound is over a G7, and I'll play this G chord now. All right, I'm not even going to put the sharp 11 in. All right, I'm just going to play a regular G7. Listen how that sounds with that lick. Here it goes. See what I mean? Okay, see how good that sounds when we play that? Love that, Lydian dominant. Now, the other thing is this. Always, when it's new stuff, play it over 2 octaves, okay? This is the other thing. So if I start down on my bottom G, I'm going to do Lydian dominant again. G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F. Now, fingering-wise, wow, there's going to be a lot of stuff covered today. Basic fingering, get you through this. Get back to the finger you start with for the 2nd octave, because if you get back to the 4th finger here, you're kind of screwed. Watch this though. Go G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F, and then slide up from here. From you go G, A, B, C sharp, D, and then shift here, E, F, G. Notice we haven't done too many shifts or slides, see? Slide. You could also do this, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F, G, slide, A, B, C sharp, D, E. That works great. You could do this, shift here, slide. Try and slide into a position where then you can play at least 3 notes consecutively. You know, generally that's what I'm doing, right? So that when I use a slide or a shift, I don't waste it. You know that thing where we kind of see people sometimes where they sort of play 1 note, shift again, play 1 note, shift again. It's kind of a waste of each shift, so think ahead. That's a whole other video, and I've done one on fingerboard visualization, fingerboard mastery on my website. If you want to download that, grab that. There's 2 parts, and that's pretty good on that. That deals with the major scale harmony generally, but you can apply it to anything. Anyway, so we've got our Lydian dominant mode for you, right? 4th mode of melodic minor. Now, so we did it in those reverse thirds, right? Now, if we start mixing them up, I started on the 5th here on a D, just, you know, to change things up. I went D down to B, and then the next pair is C sharp and A, but instead of going, it's a little predictable sounding, right? I'm alternating direction with each pair. That's the thing to practice here. D, B, A back up to C sharp, B down to G, F back up to A. You see what I mean? See, once you speed it up a little bit and start playing a phrase with it, it becomes music. That's the thing, you know. So what you could do with loop, you know, you got a little looper pedal. I use like one of these things often, right? Or you could set it up in iReal Pro, anything like that. Set up a little loop, you know, even if it's just a 1 chord, like constant vamp. Or, better still, what I was talking about earlier, going from the 1 to the 6 chord, like you would in a blues. 1-6-2-5 turnaround is one of the most common progressions in music. But we're just gonna look at 1 to 6. So if I was going from G, G7, into E7, all right? So typical bar 7 and 8 of a jazz blues, like in G in this case. I might play up a line. That would be my G7 line using that Lydian dominant. Then when it goes to E7, I'm gonna play something else. Now I could, you can say, well, why can't you just use E Lydian dominant? I could, But that E7 on a jazz blues is generally then going to a minor 2 chord, in this case an A minor 7. So the E7 with a flat 9 on top of it is more tension, gives it better pull to resolve to that A minor. Now, once you see that E7 with either a flat 9 or a sharp 9, that really naturally sways us towards using half-whole diminished harmonies. So E half-whole diminished scale. It's that. Ooh, and that's a great sound. That's our E half-whole diminished sound. So if I'm playing my G lick with these thirds, hey guys, so welcome to part 2 of this video. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to put down here on the screen a couple of things I just wrote out for you. I wrote out the little alternating thirds line for you guys, and then I also wrote out a line using alternating thirds and a mix of that and a little stepwise movement for the G to the E7 line, going for that E7 with the half-whole diminished. Now, it's an important little point too, I might just mention it now. It's great having all the programs, notation programs that print, and notate music for you, but, old school isn't bad as well. Like learning to read and write music, even if it takes you a long time, is to be able to jot ideas down. It's good to use the phone to record stuff, but I really love being able to write stuff out like this and share it with people and for your own reference. Often I'm teaching a lesson and, I come up with an idea and I'll forget it if I don't write it down. So with these lines, and they'll be here on the screen, what I did with the first one was I wrote out this little idea in thirds where this is just over that G7, right, the G7 chord, and it's going, right? Now, this line is just that alternating thirds, but the vocabulary, the DNA, is all G Lydian dominant, as I discussed earlier. Now, the second line, which you're going to see here, is going to be the one going from the G7 into the E7 with the flat 9 in there, okay? Or we're going to imply the flat 9, I should say, by using our half-whole diminished, and then that resolves into an A minor, the 2 chord there. So we're going G7, 1, 2, 3, 4, E7, A minor, like that, all right? And then we'll play the line over that, all right? Now you could record those yourself, you could just play along with that line I just played there. So the line, if we play it in an octave lower down here, which is as written, is this. So it's up and alternating thirds, Lydian dominant. And then for the E7, with the flat 9 vibe to it, I'm starting here on a D up to the F, G down to the E, F up to G sharp, then G natural, F, E. So really slowly, the whole line. All right, notice it lands on the 5th of the A minor, okay? Now, these lines also sound better an octave higher. They speak better. So again, on the bass player here, right, that sounds nicer there, I think. You could start the G7 line and then, see, works great. So you've got a couple of places on a regular 4th string, you could play that an octave higher than the original starting point, all right? This is important. You're learning the fingerboard too as you do these things, which is really great. So there's that line for that G7 to E7. You can take a screenshot of that if you need to. And then you also have this line, and I'll play this now an octave higher. That line over the G7, which is all from D melodic minor, as I discussed earlier. So you've got both lines now. You've got the 1 to the 6 idea, all right? And you've got that, just simply the thirds one on the G7. So you've got those down there, okay? And that you can take a little, screenshot, like I said, if you need to practice them slowly. I didn't write these in tab because I really recommend, if you guys, any of you don't particularly consider yourselves a strong reader or you don't read music at all, get to work at it, It opens up so many doors, And you don't need to become a fantastic sight reader to be able to at least work through transcriptions of things you can find online, or you want to write your own stuff down, you know. So really, really recommend doing that, okay? So there you got the lines. I thought you guys would dig that. If you guys are interested in the chordal stuff I was doing today, you know, just like demonstrating, you know, for instance, like a, you know, like a G7 with a sharp 11, there's a few ways you can also voice it like that, yeah? It's really, to my mind, it's useful to be able to play chords on the bass. Not necessarily because you're going to be doing this on a gig, but you might be practicing and not have access to a keyboard, and you might be like, how does this sound in relation to this chord? You can hear it. You want to play a minor major 7, you go, oh, it's that. That's G minor major 7. See what I mean? So learning to voice chords is not a bad thing. Now, if you're interested, my practical chords video is on my website. It seems to be one of the more popular ones I've made. It's almost an hour. It comes with fingering diagrams for how to play it. So you've got a fingerboard chart to kind of show you, and you can see in the video like this kind of thing. It gives you the voicings like that. It's kind of a useful thing. However you learn to do this, I recommend that as a little side note too. So anyway, hopefully you guys have dug this video. There's quite a lot in this one, a lot of content. Let me know in the comments if you dug it. Please subscribe if you haven't. Please like, please support the channel, because that really makes a difference to independent creative, you know, guys like me on the channel. Thanks for watching.